In a grid down scenario or rolling blackouts or something like that, it's extremely important that you're able to keep your critical devices charged. So we're talking things like your ham radios, things like your flashlights and torches, head torches, right? Your smart devices and so on. Now, I've got a lot of people that follow Sigma Prepper who are disabled, single lone women, people who are vulnerable or are responsible for people who are vulnerable. So one of the things I specialize in is giving accessible preps or survival gear or skills that can help even people in a wheelchair to have a little bit of a competitive edge. Now, in today's video, what I'm going to be talking to you about is my e-harvesting kit, the Ultimate E-Harvesting Kit by Sigma Prepper. But what I've done today is I've made one of my friends and subscribers and VIP Patreon members, her name's Sandy. Now, Sandy, unfortunately, she is in need of a wheelchair. She does need an electric scooter to get around for any distance at all. And so she has an electric scooter. Now, I said to her, you know, that is basically a battery bank waiting to be used, because of course with electric scooters, they all contain batteries, rechargeable batteries. And so the idea being is that with a few little bits and pieces that I'll go through here that I've made for her, this is a custom design, which is essentially something that I've designed to plug into her particular electric scooter. And this will allow her to harvest the energy from the battery in a few different ways. So we're going to get into that now, and I'll explain to you what the idea is and how it can be used, and of course for other people that have scooters or other types of battery banks that may be in your house and you hadn't even considered it, golf cart, things like this, right? And so first of all, there's quite a few different types of scooters, as you're aware. This is like a similar one to what my father has, and this one is, in fact, is very much similar to Sandy's wheelchair, electric wheelchair. And of course you have other ones, a bit more sophisticated, you get slightly larger like this. Now, because there's so many different types of mobility scooter, they all have their own different charging socket and things that you would use. And so really for me, it was a case of matching in the socket that is on Sandy's particular mobility scooter. And I looked up the data sheet so I could see what the pinout was, and so on, so we can essentially harvest the energy from her scooter. Now, there's a few caveats to that, and there's a few things that's worth being aware of if you want to try a similar thing, and I'm going to go through what I've done. Now, because there are different types of scooters, one of the important things is obviously the voltage, right? Now, this electric boot scooter is a classic one here. You go into specifications, and what you'll see here is you'll see battery size in amp hour. So 24 volts, 12 amp hour. Now you can calculate the overall watt hours of total energy with just a simple calculation of times in the volts by the amp. So we can do 24 times, is that 12 amp hour? So that gives us 288 watt hours of energy stored in that battery pack, right? Now the thing to watch out for is on Sandy's one here, this one, when I looked at this, very similar to this, here we're talking about 24 volts and 6 amp hours, right? 24 volt by 6 amp hours, what's that, 144 something? 24 times 6 is 144 watt hours, right? Now, that's quite a lot of energy in terms of what's usable, but the only caveat is this 24 volts, right? Now, lorries and trucks tend to run on 24 volt systems, cars tend to run on 12 volt battery systems, right? However, be advised that some scooters like this, you need to check the specifications. If this is like yours, you can see here 60 volts and 20 amp hour. Now, although that's a massive amount of energy, yeah, 60 times 20 is 1.2 kilowatt hours, 1.2 kilowatt hours. So what that means is that you've got an awful lot of energy there, clearly, but the 60 volts is a problem. Now, the reason I say that is because a lot of the purposes of being able to harvest the energy from your scooter, the most usable energy is about 12 volts, because there's so many devices that you can get that run on 12 volts. So as an example, where we got things like chargers, yeah, these are this is my battery charger that does 18650s, AAAs, AA's, and so on. Lithium and nickel metal hydride and so on. But this runs on 12 volts with a typical DC barrel jack, 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 barrel jack, right? So by making sure that you've got devices that can run on 12 volts rather than the AC outlets mains voltage, it gives you many more options when it comes to wanting to power your devices from emergency power supplies, such as things like car batteries and also scooter batteries. Now, the 24 volt isn't a major drama because a lot of things are designed to run on 24 volt because, like I say, trucks and lorries, heavy goods vehicles tend to have 24 volt battery systems. Now, what I've done here is, this is again part of my e-harvesting kit. So if we look at the individual components, so this is the connector that Sandy would plug into her wheelchair skirt battery. There's a socket on the battery as well as a charging port. And so that would power these two devices here. Now this is a USB QC 3.0. This is also USB-C PD power delivery. So this will give you something like 60 watts of power from the USB-C and about 20 watts from the standard USB port. And also on here is a digital display to show the voltage level, which I'll show you. So because I don't have a scooter here to show you this plugging in, what I have got is just one of my own battery bank lithium polymer, lithium phosphate power packs. So I can power that from here, and you'll see this is actually 13.4 volts that we've got coming in here. And so this would be able to charge all of your typical devices that you're running off USB, your smart devices, your tablets, flashlights and things like that, lanterns that are all running from USB. And this one here I've given her, very useful indeed, which is a car cigarette lighter socket. Now, this opens up all sorts of options, particularly if it's 12 volt and some devices 24 volt, because there's so many things available on the market when it comes to, for example, we've got these types of things that you'll be familiar with, the car cigarette lighter USB converter, which we can plug in, and again you can see it light up. So that's powered from this. And so you'd have extra USB ports here if you wanted them. This is a little bit special. This is from my e-harvesting kit, which is 120 watts. This can deliver, which you can charge laptops with. And so other than that, you can also have, I've got things like this as part of my e-harvesting kit. The Sigma Prepper Ultimate e-harvesting kit kind of looks like this. And it's got just about every cable you would need to connect just about any device to any device. And in the other compartment, I've taken some things out of here, but you can see we've got things like crocodile clips, fuses, fuse wire, you name it, it's in there, all sorts of converters. We've even got MC4 solar panel connectors in there of both male and female, so you can harvest energy from solar panels if you come across some. Plus in here, you'll see I've got a similar thing with my car cigarette lighter socket that I can then wire. Now these are XT60 connectors. They're very high quality and they can like 60 amps of energy, so they're extremely reliable. And in here is various other bits and pieces as well, some solder and things like that, and some special wire connectors. So this is a complete and utter kit. Like I say, that's not even got everything in there, but part of it is this, which is a car cigarette lighter plug, which the terminal at the end is the DC barrel jack, as it's known, the 5.5 by 2.1 millimeter. Now, what that allows me to then do is to, with these come as part of the Ultimate e-harvesting kit by Sigma Prepper, and you can see you get these as well, which give you just about every single option of powering anything that you would ever come across, right? So just when I say there's just about everything in this kit to power just about everything you'd want, that's what we're talking about, right? Now, So that's one of the things we can use with the car cigarette lighter socket. The other thing as well, I'm not sure if you're familiar, I've got a few things like this that I've bought over the years to test for my preps and for other things that I've been prototyping. But these here are pretty cool. Now, this is gives Sandy another option to be able to heat water using her scooter battery in the event of a grid down scenario or rolling blackouts. Now, this gets hot extremely quickly. Yeah, you pop that in the side of your cup. You see it's got a clip here. You can pop it in the side of your cup, and that'll warm up your water to a boil pretty quickly. And again, that terminates in a car cigarette lighter plug. And that gets extremely hot extremely quickly and very effective. And I'm not sure for those that have seen one of the lives that I did recently here on the Sigma Prepper channel. And one of the lives I did was out actually at like -1 degree centigrade out in the woods. And I was testing my fleece blanket, which is an electric blanket. And again, it results in it uses the car cigarette lighter socket. So, and this was lovely and warm. So theoretically again, giving Sandy the option of powering with car cigarette lighter devices, she could be wearing, she could be having a lovely warm heated blanket fleece running from the battery that's in her electric scooter, despite the fact that it's not a particularly big battery pack. But in terms of what this sort of power we're talking about, let's say like 150, 200 watt hours of energy, to put that in real terms, I can refer actually to one of my books, The Ultimate Guide to Prepping. There's a page in there which I'll just let you see here. This is talking about off-grid energy and fuel chapter. We're talking about battery banks, USB battery banks. Now the ones that I'm showing here is essentially this kind of a battery bank. You'll be familiar with that, you know, typical USB with USB-C and USB type A ports and so on, right? Now what I've done as part of my ultimate prepping guide in this book is I've given here a pretty good rundown of the sorts of what to expect, how much power each of these devices takes to charge, or what the full capacity of the battery is. So as an example, your 15-inch laptop, we're talking about average recharge consumption, which is assumed, you know, you're topping it up like 80%. It's drain right down to 20%. So putting 80% charge in is probably more realistic. So you're talking 52 watt hours to charge an entire 15-inch laptop, right? So 52 watt hours is a lot of energy. Now, the fact that the mobility scooters can be, you know, up to 1.2 kilowatt, as you saw, but at least up to sort of like 150. You're talking 3 times you can charge your 15-inch laptop. You're talking 6 times with a 10-inch tablet, all the way down. You can see here things like your small LED flashlight, 5.5 watt hours, ham radio, you're talking 11 watt hours, which you can recharge 10 times. And so the amount of energy we're talking about here is certainly usable for when you're charging. Let's assume a grid down scenario, you're keeping guard, you're keeping watch, you've got a couple of ham radios you're giving to your neighbors. So you can switch the batteries out on those and charge them for them. You're able to keep your devices charged. You can also use things like your battery chargers and stuff that use the DC port to then keep your flashlight batteries, or things like wireless PIR security systems. And it also gives you the option to use things like the electric blankets, which take a little bit more energy, but in an emergency, that can be a great savior. If you've got that extra power in reserve during a grid down or a blackout. Now, one of the things that obviously people would think, well, you know, what about when it runs out? How are you going to recharge it? Now, of course, the idea is that if the average blackout is like 5 days, for example, being able to recharge your smart devices like 10 times over is easier to keep everything in your critical devices, your lanterns, your LED flashlights and things like that you keep running. They're all, and your FM radio, stuff like that, right? It will allow you to keep all of that kind of stuff charged. Now, the reason this is significant in the UK is largely because of this. Now, this is from the British government here, the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, right? Now, this is the Electricity Supply Emergency Code. Now, if I skip to page 18 here, what it does is it gives you the variable rotor disconnection plan. And this is based on these letters designate a different area of the country that you live in, or a different grid section, a subsection of the country you live in. And so they'll be turned off and on as part of this disconnection plan, assuming that there's a bit of a, if there's a lack of supply of energy, or there's some critical infrastructure has been damaged, or the demand is too much for this is the plan to turn certain places off for about 3 hours, 3-hour blocks at a time, right? This is the government's plan. And so the way that translates into actual on and off times is as so. So level 1 disconnection will cover things like, you'll see there's about 3 hours on Monday midnight till 3 in the morning that it's off. And on Wednesday, this is the top line A here, assuming your letter code in your country region is A. And of course, Wednesday, a latter part of the day, you've got 3 hours where you're off as well. But the thing is that this progresses. So this is scalable, subject to the severity of the demand on the energy, or the lack of supply, or if there's been some infrastructure damage, like solar panels getting damaged by hailstorms, and so on. And you can see we get to this kind of a level looking thing. This is level 10 disconnection. This isn't as bad as it gets. This goes right up to basically completely black, right? Where you're just off the entire time. But assuming it's a rolling blackout scenario, which could be very dangerous over the winter if you're not able to heat and things. But you can see if we take Monday here as an example of how it can actually be quite useful having what I've designed here for Sandy, because although you're off for much of the day on Monday, you are on for 3 hours in the afternoon, and then you're off again, and then you're on again for 3 hours before the evening. Again, the next day looks like there's 2 blocks there on Tuesday where you're on, so that's 6 hours. And so what it means is that you're able to then recharge your battery banks, recharge things like your electric scooter batteries. And so this is all I've done is I've ordered specially here for Sandy a connector that connects directly to her scooter, and wired it in obviously to, these are the similar things here. You see, these are the chargers, right? So I've just wired it into the connection block that I created for to have these 2 devices powered continuously, basically, and then she can just unplug it as and when it's not needed. But if you look here, referring to these chargers, now you can see this top here, 24 volt, 2 amps. So this is what you consider a slow charger, right? Whereas you can buy chargers like this one here, which is 5 amps. That's more than double the charge rate. So when the power comes back on for those 6 hours, having a slightly more capable charger, and the battery is more than capable of handling it, particularly because Sandy's mobility scooter here, this one, is a lithium, you see here, lithium battery, and lithium batteries are actually better because they can discharge to a lower level. Their retention, their discharge curves much flatter, and so on. And they're also able to be charged at a higher rate. So here we'd be able to upgrade her to a 5 amp charger. So even if in the event of the electricity supply disconnection plan being as bad as this, or even worse, to be honest, you could get right down to the point like virtually the worst case scenario where you're only got 3 hours a day of power, and it means that you can readily use all of that energy in your e-scooter or your mobility scooter, knowing that obviously you can just recharge the next day or so on. And as I said, based on how much energy we're talking about here, with several hundred watt hours of stored energy in your electric scooter, it just makes sense when all the things that you can keep charged, your critical devices, is extremely important in a crisis. And so I do drum on to people about the importance of energy, because believe me, you'll miss it. Of course, the internet will be down and things like that anyway, so you'll be missing the internet, unless of course you've got the ultimate hotspot, the ultimate survival hotspot by Sigma Prepper, which again itself only takes about half a watt of power when even that is running. And so it's important to try and make sure the devices that you're using and the devices that you buy are able to be charged via 12 volts, preferably, and even better if they can be compatible with 12 and 24 volts. Then, of course, if you are unfortunate in the position or in this case, fortunately, in a position where you require a mobility scooter for getting around and you just have it there anyway, you've got several hundred watts of battery bank sitting there waiting to be used as a reserve energy. You know, like I say, whether that's charging your flashlights and things like this, or whether that's more things like, you know, going hardcore with a fleece blanket, electric blanket, these all open up opportunities for you and to keep you safe and to give you an advantage during a grid down scenario, or indeed rolling blackouts as proposed by the British government. So I'm really looking forward to getting this out to Sandy. I want to send this to her before Christmas. So that's the plan. So I'm going to be getting this boxed up today and sending off to Sandy. But yeah, let us know in the comments below if you like this idea. Let us know if you think it's worth me doing a range of these types of things, which of course can go along as part of my original Sigma Prepper Ultimate E harvesting kit, which, like I say, I will do a complete breakdown of everything that's in here, why it's in here, how it can be used in an emergency to be able to help you get through, whether it's a 10-day complete grid down disaster scenario, or whether it's just a rolling blackout every other day, you're on and you're off, having a battery bank that you can just recharge, and of course making sure you can keep your smaller USB battery banks recharged and then use these to charge your smartphones, etc. It's just going to give you a competitive edge and give you that peace of mind to know you've got that battery, you've got that energy stored in your hallway, under the stairs, wherever your e-scooter is, or your disability scooter. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful to you. I'm Drew. This has been the Sigma Prepper channel. Please do, like I say, hit the like button, and in the comment section below, let us know what you like about the idea. Let me know if it's something that you think would be helpful to you if you're in the position where you've got an electric scooter, a mobility scooter anyway. And in the meantime, love, peace and progress to the pack.
Reject the herd, prepare the pack. Click the like button, it's as easy as that. Check the description for the links you need. Follow my socials, subscribe to my feed. From a single lone woman to a family of 5. Learn from Sigma Prepper and see how you can thrive. We understand the risks that tomorrow could bring. We adapt and survive, it's a wolf pack thing. Reject the herd, prepare the pack. Click the like button, it's as easy as that. Check the description for the links you need. Follow my socials, subscribe to my feed.